In the moments after U.S. activist Charlie Kirk was shot, video of the incident spread quickly across the internet, and any kid with a phone could see what happened in graphic detail. Nowadays, it's become almost commonplace to see violent imagery online, but repeated exposure to it can have an impact. Joining me now is Laura Cavanagh. She's a registered psychotherapist and professor of behavioral sciences at Seneca College. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today, Laura.
Thanks so much for having me.
What was your first thoughts here when you heard that this video was out there for anyone to see?
Yeah, I felt really deeply saddened, especially because I found out that my own child had watched it. My youngest, who's only 15, and like many people, watched it without seeking it out. So it was shared in a group chat, and they didn't know what they were clicking on. It's quite disturbing to hear and to be made aware, I guess, of how easy it is to access violent content online. Um, you know, we know we have the data is really unequivocal on that consuming violent content affects us, and it affects children and teens even more than it affects adults. And that it has the potential to cause some pretty serious psychological injury.
Laura, this incident, of course, is getting a lot of attention, but it's certainly not the first disturbing thing that many people have seen on the internet. What is the impact of viewing images or video like this?
Yeah, so it does a few things. So the first is that it desensitizes us. So we become more numb. And that's not just sort of up here, not just sort of an intellectual reaction, but actually like our bodies react less. We don't have the same fear response, the same disgust response, the same kind of recoil effect. It also affects our normative beliefs about violence. So the more violent content we consume, the more we sort of overgeneralize the amount of violence that's out there, right? And that can lead people to behave more aggressively because they feel that it's more normative and accepted than it is, or it may lead people to feel very afraid because they feel like it's the world is more dangerous than it is, or they're more likely to be exposed to it in the real world. It also changes our thinking. So when people consume violent content, they become cognitions become more aggressive. So we think more aggressively, and then for some people, that's going to translate into behaving more aggressively. We know for sure, with kids and teens, there's some very solid data on how how consuming violent media affects their behavior, both in the short and the long term, with some longitudinal studies covering like up to 17 years and seeing like a pretty reliable effect there. I think the key is like, I think often what people think about is it going to make me behave violently? If I'm not going to be violent, then it's not affecting me, right? But like when we talk about trauma or vicarious trauma, it often doesn't, it sort of depends on your personality, how it manifests. Like it may make you more hostile or irritable, but it may make you feel hopeless or cynical, may make you want to withdraw. It may lead you to self-medicate more. It may lead you to be unable to enjoy activities you used to enjoy. So for all of us, it affects us, and especially when we're engaging with it in a really passive way,
Mm-hmm.
different than say, a detective solving a crime.
So, Laura, I mean, some social media sites, I mean, they did attempt to take this video down, but it's still widely available. And some people, as you said, didn't mean to see it, and it just may have come up in their social media feeds. From your perspective as a mental health expert, then, what needs to be done to address this problem?
Yeah, it's our mental health is sort of a shared responsibility between ourselves and society or mental health practitioner. I do appreciate that there's some effort being made by social media sites to to not just address this video, but to kind of address violent content in general. On the other hand, I think it is going to be difficult to wait for social media companies to just kind of do the right thing. because this is how they make money, and we know that the more outraged someone is, the more upset, the more emotionally charged they feel, the more time they're gonna spend online, and the more clicks they're gonna give, So I think it's really important to be mindful about it. To really think of this as, if as I consume this causes some kind of injury, and I need to think about what the antidote to that is. I think it's also important to do what we can to kind of manipulate our own feeds, to
Mhm.
seek out positive content, because that will kind of get amplified back to you, based on your algorithm. And what I said for my son who watched it is like, we need to do something that's in the opposite direction. We need to do something that's like uplifting, because that what you saw is very disturbing and very dark,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
affects us.
Laura, I really do appreciate you joining us on the show today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Laura Cavanagh is a registered psychotherapist and professor of behavioral sciences at Seneca College.